When Sasha Walpole took Prince Harry's virginity, the secret darling in Duke of Sussex's journal reviews the fate from their cavort. Likewise, demands she'd in any case meet him for a libation in the event that he inquired. The digger opportunist who took ruler Harry's purity talked the former evening of the demotion of let her pater know that she was the more seasoned lady depicted in the Duke's unstable journal. Sasha Walpole, presently 40, snickered with her family the morning after the five-nanosecond coitus meeting in a bar field in July 2001, and admitted what has been going on with her mama at that point. Still, her pater had stayed careless for a considerable length of time until the distribution of extra burned a worldwide assuming game, and constrained her to tell him. Harry composed how a pony cherishing more seasoned lady treated him analogous to a immature horse and smacked my backside and transferred me off to encounter after a fast lift. Harry was 16 at that point and Mrs Walpole was delivering her 19th birthday festivity. His realistic depiction of the ignoble occasion incited global interest over the secret squeeze-esque personality which saw colourful ladies avert themselves. Former Highgrove bachelor Mrs Walpole realised that it was ineluctable until her name released, therefore chosen to relate her story to the Correspondence on Sunday this end of the week. In the first place, she demanded the countersign of her mama Lyn Alvis, 63, a lodging cleanser, and her 71-time-old groundworker father, Tony, both of whom she allowed knew. Still, it incontinently came clear that her pater had no indication, meaning she had to expose every one of the painful craft to him. "It's commodity your folks most likely ought to know," way read, said Mrs Walpole, a mama of two who presently drives diggers professionally. "The day after I engaged in sexual relations with Harry, I was in the kitchen at home and told my mum. Still, I did not give craft. I suppose she was veritably much like, alright. She believed me. She realized I was on the lozenge. I allowed, we told father as well, yet presently I understand he had not heeded on the grounds that he'd have rather not set up out about what his youthful girl was doing." The family at no point ever talked about the experience in the future until Harry distributed his libellous depiction last month. Not long after Extra surfaced, Mrs Walpole called her pater to hear his point of view on giving her variant of occasions to the press. "I was en route to Morrison's to do the shopping for food," she said. "At first we were agitating a task and subsequently I said, I simply do not have the foggiest idea what to do about standing up." He did not respond. Generally father would offer his guidance. I could judge by his manner of speaking that he simply did not have any idea. I was allowing, I'm certain he knows. The following day I addressed mum and said, "Does father be apprehensive?" She said, "I suspect as important." She addressed him, and he was as, I did not have the foggiest idea. He made sense of that he presumably was not hearkening back in 2001, in light of the fact that he'd have rather not known. It inferred Mr Alvis was also impelled to read and pay attention to every one of the perceptivity concerning his little girl. Mrs Walpole said the former evening, "It's abnormal due to what Harry has expounded on me slighting his bum, truly cringy." It erupted in light of the way Harry has composed it. "For that reason I'm in this present circumstance." Harry has put it out there. On the off chance that father has an assessment on what Harry has done, he wouldn't agree that he wouldn't stew on it for still long. I'm alright. My folks' anxiety is for my security. They simply maintain that I should be alright. In malignancy of being a private many, Mrs Walpole's folks upheld her choice to stand up. Lately she let the Correspondence know how she's soothed the fact of the matter is at long last out. I need to stress no further, and I can return to my life, she said. I need to say thanks to the Correspondence on Sunday for permitting me to tell my side. I'm not embarrassed. There is no lament. It was a shot of delirium and life is about hassles. I've no indication about what Harry allowed when he read it. He hasn't reached me, and I do not figure he will. I'm not a analogous youthful lady I was in those days, and he is not a analogous chapter. From my side of effects it's finished, and I do not need to live in red it'll crop. Mrs Walpole has gotten numerous steady dispatches from the public calling her true, and lauding her for a moving responsibility for story from ruler Harry. I'm so thankful individualities have perceived this is the kind of thing I demanded to do, she said. I'm so cheerful. Mrs Walpole has likewise been named a unexpectedly strong contender by her stupefied companions who had no indication about that she had laid down with Harry until her exposure. She told how she and the immature autonomous had come companions, while she was a lucky man at the unborn Lord Charles Gloucestershire birthright, Highgrove. Mrs Walpole had ate the also 16-time-old to her 19th birthday festivity party at the Plant Tree Bar in the Wiltshire city of Norton in July 2001. Harry showed up with a stuffed Miss Piggy and a lampoon birthday card with a sprat about a fustian Goliath on the front. With her Kalayjana Silveran partner, Harry encouraged her by getting them 10 shots. Yet, when they escaped the bar for a tricky Marlboro-Light cigarette, they wound up scrabbling over a wall to have intercourse in a field. He began to kiss me, she told the Correspondence on Sunday. It was energetic, extreme. We both knew. It went from a kiss onto the bottom a headlong. It was moment, blazing, wham bam, between two companions. It was perky on the grounds that we should not have made it be. He was not sovereign Harry as far as I might be concerned. This was Harry, old chum, and the circumstance had got a smidgen wild. It felt underhanded, I assume, as in it ought not be working out. We did not decide to make it be, it was not planned, and I did not realize he was a Abecedarian. There were no Abecedarian powers. He appeared to understand what he was doing. It was speedy, wild, amping. We were both alcoholic. It could no way have worked out in the event that we weren't. She also, at that point, got back to the bar, while Harry concealed in a telephone box where his security detail tracked down him. She chimed her family, Jody Mayhead, the following day, and the two ladies snickered about it. Chronicler Mrs Mayhead, presently 42, said Sasha said she would lay down with Harry in the field behind the bar. Also, that is what she knew, or appeared to realize, that he would lost his purity to her. We had a snicker about it. She did not strictly describe the situation other than it was tipsy. I allowed that it's veritably amusing. It had no effect that it was Harry by any means. He was simply viewed as one of the fellows. At the time Harry and Sasha were dear companions who might communication each other constantly to get together. Assuming the sign was really awful, he'd call the landline at the family's 3-room semi in the Gloucestershire city of Acton Turville, close to Badminton. Insult, Mrs Walpole said. I recollect, whenever that Harry first chimed our landline. Mum picked up the telephone in the lobby and expressed, Harry's on the telephone. A short time latterly she inquired, "Was that Harry?" "Harry," I said. "Okay." I recollect a sententious, "Gracious, how amusing." Yet she made sense of I was not eager to hear from him. It was only a companion calling. He was Harry to me. The calls were regular to such an extent that Jodie would advise her family to get off the telephone, since she also was sitting tight for a call. Mrs Walpole would likewise make a beeline for the alternate landline in her folks' room for protection. It depended what we were talking about regarding how long we were on, she said. It would be pieces and bounces, nothing significant, mates chat, steed talk, making arrangements for the utmost part. Still, after their casual association, Harry cut contact. Still, she regrets nothing over them floating separated. She's vexed that she wasn't advised that their contact would be substantiated. Mrs Walpole, who has 2 youths with partner Ian, 44, a dashing motorist, said I was stupefied and feel like he has carried this to my hall. I do not have the foggiest idea why he precisely described the situation. He might have said he lost his purity and left it at that. Be that as it may, he depicted how it worked out in a field behind a bar. That's fine on the off chance that you are not the other existent included. Yet, in the event that you are me, you out of nowhere feel as though your reality is getting kindly more modest. He has done this to my security, since I plan to hold my head down and not bandy it. On the off chance that it was not in the book, no part of this would do. Harry, who presently lives in Montecito, California, with his better half Meghan, 41, and their kid Izaki, 3, and Lilibet, 1, has over and over said that he moved to the States to guard his favored bones. The Duke and Viscountess constantly rail against press interruption and call for more prominent protection, yet sounded apathetic about snooping with Mrs Walpole's security. The mama, who lives in Wiltshire, said the issue is that individualities know, since they were important for that evening or part of our unique group of musketeers. Maybe Harry might have contemplated that previous to distributing. He might have tracked down me, assuming he'd tried. She added, if Harry reached me I would agree, we should go for the good of a libation for defunct ages, still not in the plant tree. We could make up for lost time with the most recent 21 times. I might want to chortle with him about that distray evening. The former evening the property director of the plant tree, Tom, said we generally realized it was Sasha. She's an extremely faithful customer, so we could not have ever uttered a word. This bar is a safe haven for the Regal family and their mystification.